Got a bit of colour.
Grand colour on you. Now, was this a red which turned brown, or has this been slowly but surely done?
I got a lot of sun on Sunday. I was out in kind of on the Kildare Mead border, out
Fine farmland, Johnny.
with a lady who's turns out I didn't know much about her. She's
Jesus, steady on here now. What?
She breeds horses, but she had like a lot of horse around the yard, whatever. Mary Davison's her name, but she told me about some of the horse she bred, and she bred Ivawood, who would have been a very, very good horse, and I didn't know anything about that, and I looked her up, and true enough, she's down as a breeder, and she basically has bred some very good horses, and she was showing us like a couple of foals she has and the dreams she has for them, and it was lovely. It was just and it was really nice weather, and then I played a bit of ball yesterday, a bit of Astro, and it was very hot, so I got a bit of sunshine.
It's a grand life you have all the same.
I have a great life.
Yeah. That was a grand Sunday afternoon in the sunshine.
Yeah, and she produced like 2 cans of Rascals beer out of nowhere. She knows like one of these sales for people for Rascals beer. I think she's a neighbour of hers, and she was just like, would you like a Rascals? You're not expecting like a country woman to offer you some Rascals beer, and I live very close enough to the Rascals brewery.
How many times have you mentioned it now?
I want a bit of a job with Rascals, do I? But no, it was a lovely Sunday, and then obviously the sport happened, so we were flicking between. She wants to watch the tennis, I wanted to watch the racing and the hurling, and there was so much going on, and I didn't even know about the cricket, so it was just one of these ridiculous days. I think as John Duggan said, if you don't like sports, there's nothing I can do for you.
No. What was the racing? Was the racing big as well?
Not really. It was Sligo, and
you didn't have much of a shout then, in fairness.
But she had a horse that she bred running in the 2 o'clock.
Right.
So I was there with her sister and with the sister's daughter, and I was like, this horse is 20-25 to 1.
Yeah.
We should have a few bob each way in it, because she reckoned the horse could be in foal, and horses who are in foal often show improvements, which is quite strange. If a mare is in foal, often she improves exponentially.
Just the hormones.
I don't really know. I don't know is there any science behind it, but we said, will we put a few bob on her each way, and she was like 28 to 1, and she got up for third on the line, so we won enough to buy an Indian curry for the family later that night, so it was a lovely day.
Nice. Well, the sport didn't really reach its peak, its zenith, until about 7 o'clock, I would have said.
Yeah.
You had loads of time at 2 to keep an eye on the racing.
Yeah, I was watching, like, I don't really watch tennis, but we're all drawn into the final, but it was just, I'm 36 years of age, so to watch someone like Federer, who basically, you know, I remember the guys I was watching were like, oh, he's done, like he's obviously goosed at the start of the 5th.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, he's obviously going to fade out, and then he gets 2 match points, and obviously it just goes so long, and it didn't look like tiredness beat him really.
No.
So it was really, it is quite, like, I know it's ridiculous to say, but it is quite uplifting for somebody. Like, every time now I play a game of Astro, I feel older than I did the time before, and it's quite, like, it's hard to take that your body's slowing down.
Yeah.
So to see somebody at the pinnacle of his career or thereabouts at 37 is quite uplifting.
I'm starting to get that now at 34. Like, one of the great cliches that sports people will give you is, you know, I can do what I always did, but the recovery takes longer. I now find if I do something the next day, I really know I did something. And 5-6 years ago, even 2-3 years ago, I wasn't feeling that in the same way. It's a depressing thought.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people listening as well, if they play Astro, like, it's a different kettle of fish because it's so hard as well. And I found that on my knees that it's really taken its toll, and like
would you have had knee trouble growing up?
Yeah, I always had pretty bad knees, and in fairness probably didn't do enough like exercises on the knees to keep them strong and all that, but it's kind of like I play with a guy, Roy, who's 56, and he regularly takes me on and is probably able to run faster than me, so he's kind of you know, he's quite he's very inspirational as well. But I find now that I'm just, after the game, I feel very, very old, and I can't move like I used to, and to see I did a piece there last week about John Kiley, who's a horse racing trainer, but he's still riding out every day, or more or less every day, 82 years of age.
Good on him.
Lived a good life, but I'm finding at 36 that 82 seems a long, long way away.
No, but I know what you're saying. You know, look, 82, he's still active, but I think you really notice the slowdown in your 30s. That's when the reality sets in. Oh,
I'm an adult now.
It's happening. It's actually happening to me. I can't believe how I took my youth for granted. That's what I was just thinking the other day. I was like, I can't believe I took at 21, being able to play like matches in successive days and just get up, you have a sleep, so you're grand again. totally for granted.
And it's when you come off the pitch, we'll say, on a nice summer's day, and just that feeling of adrenaline, and this is just a five-a-side or whatever it is, but you feel great. And I've spoken to another lad who plays Astra, he's 45, and he says to me, like, geez, when I'm not able to do this, like, it's really going to feel it. But just like you're saying, there's, like, I remember when you were at your peak or whatever, and you were playing in your early 20s and mid-20s, and it was so enjoyable, and you were playing well, you were able to move quickly, and you take it for granted completely.
Totally.
For those of us who've had a quite sedentary existence and never really bothered getting out there and doing anything at all, I don't notice much of a difference at all.
Not as sharp a decline for you.
No, still creaky. Always was though. It's fine.
It must be extremely hard for professional sports people who have to stop and have to get on with their lives.
It's such a sharp decline. Like, it really is. To go from being, like you mentioned, a Federer or a Serena Williams or, I don't know, a Geraint Thomas, whoever it is, and be at that absolute zenith, even into your early to mid 30s, and to notice that drop off, that's accelerated tenfold if you're a sports person.
It always hits me as well when you have, so you're at 36, I'm 34, so someone in that age range coming into studio in their civvies, in their normal gear, is just how young they look and fit they look and healthy they look. But you see them on the pitch, they do look old.
I know.
They look like old men. I daren't think what we look like on the AstroTurf at this stage. But
we don't think like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not
when
like
they come in, they look great.
Yeah.
Actually, God, you look old at 35 on a pitch.
I remember when in school we studied Thomas Kinsella, who's incidentally actually kind of from Inchicore. Again, not going to mention the brewery again, but near the brewery. But he had a poem. He had two poems that we had to study, Mirror in February and another September. But in Mirror in February, he's looking at the mirror and he goes, "We are not made whole that reach the age of Christ." So he just turned 33, and he was kind of just focusing on how he was getting old and he was slowing down.
Yeah.
And I remember being in school, probably 17 at the time, just thinking, well, I'm never going to be 33. And all of a sudden now you're at the stage where you are slowing down and you're not able to do, and it's actually quite a shock.
Yeah, no, it is. I had a real period there last year where I was thinking far too much about my mortality and how old I was getting. It was a daily thing. I was really thinking about it.
We're all dying, Joe.
Totally.
Yep.
And the only solution, you reach a point where you realise the only solution is to not think about it.
Get on with it.
Kind of.
Don't do that face-app thing,
no
Joe.
solace.
Don't do that face-app
I'm
thing.
a firm believer in...
I did that yesterday. It turned out literally exactly like my dad. And I was scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I am a believer though in that no matter what age you are in life, there's some benefit to being that age. Like, so when you get older, you're kind of wiser and you've taken it all in. And I used to worry about that, like when I'm getting older and I know that, you know, my years are running out. I remember saying it to my friend Arthur one day. He'd be a very wise man from Cavan, and he says to me, "Nah, when you get to that age, you know that your race is kind of run, and you accept that you've lived a good life. And would you do another 80, 90 years? Probably not. But I would be, especially when you're hungover and you have the fear of the world in you, like it does seem a very shocking thing."
It is. The flip side of doing another 80, 90 is the amount of people you talk to in their 60s, 70s who say, "I still feel like I'm 30.
Yeah.
That's the horrible flip side.
I don't feel like I'm 30 now when I'm 36. That's problematic.
40's really coming into focus for you.
Just the dodgy knees, if you could even get over that. So, anyway.
Well, that's our mortality dealt with on the show for this evening. The big story today, top story in Richie's Newsround, is that Shane Ross has written to the FAI president, Donald Conway, to stand down in the best interest of Irish football. So yesterday we would have told you Donald Conway nominated unopposed by AGM members to be the next FAI president. Ross has also said that the appointment of Noel Mooney was meant that the football governing body, Irish football's governing body, had a very old look about it. So he sent this letter to Donald Conway today, and Shane Ross is arguing they've reneged on a promise that the entire board would step down. He also said that they only had a 5-day window for nominations to be made, and that only a very limited number of senior FAI members were entitled to make nominations. So he said that process was ridiculous. Here's a quote, "This is a reversal of your promise to bring reform to the FAI under a new leadership." He says, "Together with your decision to appoint former FAI employee and loyalist Noel Mooney to the post of General Manager, this development means that the new regime has a very old look about it." And on it goes with different points. He used the phrase, "this old beggar's belief" as well. A scathing letter is what it's been described as, the full letter that he sent to Donald Conway today. I'm not sure how Donald Conway will respond. Will it be by letter? Will it be publicly? Will he go and meet Shane Ross? But it's hard to really argue with the points Ross is making there, I would suggest.
It's hard to argue. The problem though with anything to do with Shane Ross is that it's Shane Ross. And it's like he's become a bit of a joke figure because of the whole Katie Taylor thing and various things like that where, you know, and the many slip-ups he's made in terms of sporting personalities, which you could kind of get away with. But
and sorry to interrupt, more than anything, just how late to this party, this FAI party he's been.
It was only last, I think, December where he December where he was lauding the FAI. When I think any journalist who's been remotely on the beat or even a League of Ireland fan over the last sort of many years, you would know that the FAI was not something to be proud of. And I'm actually very, very angry the more I think about what the FAI has done to this country in terms of football and how it's stymied its development in so many ways under the old regime. But so that's the first thing. Shane Ross is very, very hard to take seriously after all of this. Now you can't argue with what he's saying here. I mean, these are people from the old regime. I'm very wary of the whole Noel Mooney thing because he was he was closely tied to Delaney. He would probably argue that that was kind of, you had to be in the old system. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've been very impressed with Noel Mooney at the think tank over the weekend. I'd still have huge reservations. I can't see how Donald Conway's position is remotely tenable. We all saw the Oireachtas committee where he was kind of left to field all the questions by his former boss or whatever. But in fairness, I would agree with pretty much everything Shane Ross says here.
The fact that it's like regardless of who's saying it, it's the ministerial department has come out with this statement, and that element of it needs to be taken seriously. And the fact that Conway was the man leading all this talk of there needs to be a new broom swept in the FAI, and all this change that has to occur. Like when that email came in yesterday, like everybody who was looking at that email laughed, and it wasn't like a joyous laugh out there. It was what the hell are they doing? How can there be only one nomination for the new president, and it's the guy who's been in the job for the past 11 months?
Well, on that point, Shane Ross in the letter says, could you explain why nominations for the election to the post of President and Vice President. So could you explain why nominations for election to the post of President and Vice President were not sought earlier than the 7th of July and why it was necessary to close the nomination period on the 12th of July? Like, what is the answer to that? What is the credible answer to we had a 5-day period where you could put forward nominations?
On the flip side of that, like it was pretty public that they sought nominations. So are people who may, if all things are level and equal and rosy in the garden, who may be interested in applying for that position, are they so put off by what is still in line to come for the FAI that they just don't want to have any part of it?
But then Ross says, and I didn't realise just how restrictive it was for, like, it's not like I could have emailed in and said, I nominate Richie McCormack. And I would have.
I know you would have, Joe. You have that much faith in me.
Ross says, I'm sure you'd agree 5 days is a pretty short period for candidates to submit their nomination papers. Fair enough. Given that you were unopposed, and here's the key part, and that the number of qualifying candidates was restricted to 50 existing FAI council members, all with a minimum of 2 years service. In the circumstances, I believe it would have been worth extending the deadline to accept nominations at least until the end of the week and from beyond the ranks of council members. So basically, you had to be a council member, FAI council member, all with a minimum of 2 years service.
Close shop.
5 days notice.
Close shop.
Like, it hasn't been a credible process. There is a reason now, when you look into that, why Donald Conway was nominated and successfully so unopposed. So that's not reform. Like, we're nowhere near reform. This is all hanging on.
I made the point, if the North Korean regime just fell apart in the morning, it would be an absolute disaster. Nobody would know what to do. Who would step forward? There'd be a complete power vacuum. It would have been years and years of this regime. How do we do it now that the Kims are gone? Yeah. I honestly think the FAI is such a mess. I don't know what to propose. I don't know who's going to step in. Noel Mooney is a figure that certainly a lot of people are wary of being there because of his Delaney links. And now they have the AGM coming up. Meanwhile, the League of Ireland is trying to become an All-Ireland League or whatever it's trying to be. Yeah. Massive revolution going on there. And the FAI is really in no position to be doing anything with it.
I accept a power vacuum on the face of it. Doesn't seem that appealing. However, if you're looking for some kind of parallel or test case, the Olympic Council have got everybody out of there.
Clean slate.
Sarah Keane's gone in, by all accounts, done a very good job. They've put new members on the board, and the world doesn't seem to have ended.
But it's those exact things and those rules that you mentioned there about you needing to be a council member, you need to have 2 years service. That type of nonsense needs to be deconstructed completely.
Yeah.
Like, completely. Like, whatever about bringing in new people, if the same manner of getting them there exists, then it's utterly pointless. The whole notion of change is pointless unless you're actually building from the ground up.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to do that here and they're leaving it pass by.
It looks that way. That is the top story on today's news round, which is brought to you by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard. What else going on, Richie?
Cork's final Super 8 game has been moved to Porky Rin. That's because Porky Queeve is to undergo a pitch replacement from next week. The game with Roscommon will now be played on Sunday, August 4th, and it'll have a 4 p.m. throw-in. The surface of the Cork Stadium, of course, came in for intense criticism after chewing up badly in a league double-header back in February. Cork County Board Chair Tracy Kennedy says the cost of the resurfacing has come in within the amount allowed in the €95.8 million estimated cost of the stadium. The other final two Group 2 game will see Healy Park host the meeting of Tyrone in Dublin, which will also throw in at 4. Group 1 will draw to a close from 6 p.m. on Saturday, August 3rd. Elvery's McHale Park hosting the meeting of Mayo and Donegal, while Meath will face Kerry at Park Talton in Navan.
Cian O'Neill?
He has decided that enough is enough in terms of Kildare, and he says he takes responsibility for the Kildare senior football side not always reaching their potential. O'Neill led the Lilywhites to consecutive league promotions from Division 3 to Division 1, as well as reaching the 2017 Leinster final and last year's Super 8s following that win over Mayo. However, Kildare lost in the third round of this year's qualifiers to Tyrone, leading O'Neill to inform the County Board last night of his decision not to seek a fifth year in charge. O'Neill says it was an honour and a privilege to lead his home county.
It didn't quite happen for him, but I think he's left things in a reasonably good state. They're a fit team, they're a big team, there's a lot of talent in the county. That's an attractive job. Malachy O'Rourke would jump to mind as a good fit. I'd say they'll send him out for sure. And beyond that, I don't know. Who else would excite you, or would you think would be a good fit for Kildare if Malachy O'Rourke said no?
You want to get Flynn back as well, and get all your players back for next year. In fairness to Kildare, this year didn't really happen for them, but there is a lot of work, and what I like about him is that he accepted responsibility. There was no the problem with all Leinster teams is being in Leinster, apart from Dublin, because it just makes it difficult, but it would be an attractive job.
Jim McGuinness, lads, says somebody. Whew, now we're talking.
He does have a very open few months in front of him.
All right, lads, don't give up hope. There are lots of texts on mortality and dodgy knees coming in.
Can I stop them there? I already have.
My father once said to me, you don't stop playing when you get old. You get old when you stop playing. I'm 43. I'm still playing junior football with my club. Really enjoying it. Love the show, guys, says Mark in Cork.
Mickey Linden is... did you see the clip of his left-footed point this year in a junior game? And it was playing in a lovely, one of the bigger grounds. I'm not really sure where it was. It was a proper stadium, so it looked like the old days. And there was they showed, I think, a clip of a point he got for down in his heyday, which was very similar. But like Mickey Linden's like 56 or something like that.
Yeah. He did a great piece a couple of weeks ago in the Sunday Times, and genetically gifted isn't the word. Obviously he was fast as a gap player. I didn't realise how fast. In some world games, I'm not sure, there was like an age qualification, but he was like 6th in the world for his age in sprinting.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Lads, I'm in my 50s. I went through all that 30s stuff. Never felt better now though. More invigorated, and I do various sports. It's all upside ahead, boys, says Michael in Dublin. That could be something. We're in the horrible period of sharp decline, but then there must be a plateau there. A plateau, a comfortable plateau in our 40s and 50s.
The Astro lads in their 50s can't have been much worse in their mid-40s. Do you know what I mean? Unless they're unbelievable players.
Yeah. I went to Dr. Pat O'Neill, age 38, with my dodgy knees. He told me to give up the Astro. I went home, told my wife, thinking she'd be delighted. She told me not to, as it was the only thing I had left, said David in Dublin.
No. It was the only few hours she had peace in the house.
Yeah. She didn't care about your knees, David.
Get out.
Could Kieran McGeeney be tempted back to Kildare, lads? Wonders Karen.
He wants to stay on in Armagh, does he not? And they are definitely making progress.
They are really impressive this year. I do feel he has unfinished business in Kildare. He was turfed out when he shouldn't have been.
But then does he have a desire to go back?
Yeah, there may be ill feeling there.
I think he'd be foolish to walk away, because that Armagh side feels like it's on the cusp of something. Yeah. To walk away now, probably not a good call. No, I'd say stay with Armagh, ride this one out as far as you can, because they are improving. But down the line, I wouldn't be shocked if he did a Micco and came back again, because like the vast majority of the country, the county, loves McGeeney, because he did a great job after a terrible decade for Kildare.
Where are we going next?
To Portrush. Tiger Woods even admits his golf could be in a better place as he prepares for this week's Open Championship. Woods has only played 3 tournaments since winning the Masters in April, and the 15-time major winner says the lack of competitive action means his game is a bit rusty.
It's not quite as sharp as I'd like to have it right now. My touch around the greens is where I needed to have it. I still need to get the ball shaping the golf ball a little bit better than I am right now. Especially with the weather coming in and the wind's going to be changing. Going to have to be able to cut the ball, draw the ball, hit at different heights, and move it all around. And today was a good range session. I need another one tomorrow, and hopefully that'll be enough to be ready.
He's cutting it fine if he's relying on one more range session. It's like cramming for your leaving cert here.
He was talking about he still has to get a lot of homework. At least you said he has to do a lot of homework still, and to get out his yardage book and figure out what he's going to do in the winds up there. So I wouldn't be overly hopeful of a good finish from
really,
this week.
There's something going on there. Like, he's only played 1 tournament outside of the majors since April, so he's not right. And someone tweeted me a video of him in Portrush today. Everybody's in t-shirts and he's there in about 3 or 4 different layers. Like, the back I would think is an issue, and he fell off the swing the way a rank bad mid-handicapper would, and just looked in disgust at the ground. Like, it was really worrying. I retweeted it. You can have a look. It was shocking. I'd never seen Tiger Woods do it. So I don't know. I just, you wonder, and we'll find out in due course. He's certainly not going to say it on the eve of a tournament, but you wonder if he's even swinging a club more than once or twice a week at the moment.
This is just marrying a couple of things we've spoken about, but one of the other lads I play Astro with, who's in his 50s, is mad keen to go on the
Seniors Tour,
the off the ball thing in
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, yeah, he's well keen to do that. So
good on him.
Would you sell the notion
of
good trip?
Oh yeah, I mean, golf, sunshine, get some vitamin D in November.
Couple of celebrities out there.
Kevin Kilban,
Donny.
Kevin Kilban's all you need.
Yeah,
surely.
So just lads that work for off the ball, basically.
Yeah. Kieran Donny, Peter Lowry's going to do a golf clinic. He'll sort you out. A gala dinner, not a dinner, a gala dinner. So yeah, tell him, come along, get swinging. Golf, a great sport to keep playing into your 50s, 60s.
When do you properly regress as a golfer?
50s.
So into your 40s you can.
Yeah. Phil Mickelson, 48, hitting it further than ever.
Really?
Yeah. I think even
technique or
a bit of everything, technique, and I think he's worked on his fitness and hit the gym and all that stuff. But even amateurs will still be right going until their 50s. Like, an amateur in his 40s or her 40s will still be not massively different to 20s, 30s.
Snooker was the one that always used to kind of confound me, because I couldn't really figure out why you'd be any worse in your 50s. Whether
you're right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And just your general
coordination.
Your senses go a little bit. And
that's grim as well, though, isn't it?
That's terrible. And I think the practice takes such a toll mentally that they don't practice as much. It's hard to have that desire to practice as much.
It's a great kind of journalistic story, like, to follow the lads who are in the dying embers of the career, going to the circuit in Wales or wherever it is to qualify for a tournament that they were always in, and just struggling away to make a few bucks to keep the dream alive. Always more interesting kind of following them than the perennial champion, I think.
Yeah. Mickey Linden is my favourite GAA player, naturally gifted and beautiful execution, says Jay from Ross. Can you ask Johnny, is the League of Ireland title race over? Well, Johnny's already commented on this number of months ago.
Oh my!
It's been over for some time.
Funny enough, if Rovers, by the way, Bowes,
are you about to try and swing this?
If Rovers, had beaten Dundalk and Tala, and they were very unlucky, I actually think they would have the kind of belief they would have been 2 behind. Instead, they're 8 behind. So it's going to be very difficult. But Bowes I was working out last night. Bowes have a 100% record against Shamrock Rovers this season, and against everyone else combined, they have a 50% points record. So it's just, I don't know, Bowes have just completely done it for Rovers in the title race. I think they've really killed them.
Did you actually spend time working this out last night? You did?
Yeah, because when they lost to UCD, and I've seen Bowes quite a bit this season. And I've the team that has been brilliant against Shamrock Rovers is against
strikers.
The team, they've no strikes at the moment. Like, they haven't scored in 3 games, I think.
3 games in a row, yeah.
And I think they're kind of punching above their weight in general this season.
Anyway, they were, yeah.
Yeah.
Like thirds and pushing for second.
But the games against Rovers, like, it wasn't that they were really fluky, because they were actually brilliant in those games.
Yeah. There's been a switch flicked in UCD since the summer break. They've come back. They've
lost their best players.
Lost their best players and turned out to be a better side.
Yeah.
Like, utterly bizarre. Played really well against Derry the other night. Played, probably deserved the win again last night too. So
I don't think it's totally over yet, but like a lot of things would have to go very wrong. Dundalk would have to start dropping points and implode probably. And in fairness, Rovers have a really good squad right now. They've really, really good players coming off the bench. I think they could get more points than Dundalk for the rest of the season, but whether they have an 8-point gap, I don't know if that's achievable.
Speaking of declining with age, why is De Niro no good anymore, wonders Con in Ringsend? It's one of the great questions.
Well, he probably is still good.
Not arsed.
He started taking the checks.
Just not arsed, is he?
Because he's in this The Irishman with Pacino, and it's directed by Scorsese.
What's the
It's
word?
gonna be on Netflix.
The Irishman.
Yeah.
You're already thinking of a terrible Irish accent from someone.
I think they're sticking with the old. They've been in New York
Irish
for
American.
a while. Yeah. So I think we're going to be okay on that front.
Given that as cruel as Hollywood is to female actresses as they get older, it is the opposite for men. They get roles, brilliant roles. You should have more gravitas, more experience. De Niro should be doing some of his best stuff. And he's just faffing around, ruining his legacy.
Is he though?
I think for a certain quotient of people, they would just see him as like that lad in crap films.
Raging Bull is never going to be diminished because he was in Rocky and Bullwinkle,
It is a little bit.
Goodfellas is never going to be diminished. Jimmy Conway as a character isn't going to be diminished because he pitched up in Meet the Fockers.
Is he not a bit diminished? Genuinely, think how unbelievably, think of the esteem in which it'd hold him if he had just retired and not done all that crap later on.
Listen, Morrissey has come out with whatever he said publicly in the last few months and years, and he was still the lead singer in Smiths.
I know.
His legacy is a little bit
I think his
tarnished.
legacy is damaged.
his is far
Films aren't damaged. I'm saying De Niro and what he represents has been damaged.
What does he represent, Joe?
He represents someone who was great and then just took the easy way out.
If anyone ever meets Roger...
That is literally my ideal.
If you meet Roger Federer or any of our listeners, just say, well, I know you lost the final, but somehow we got talking from you to Robert De Niro in the space of a sports bulletin on Wednesday because of the thought of mortality.
Imagine being in the position to take the easy way out and just going, screw it, I don't care. That's the dream.
I know. An easier way would have just been to retire. He must be sitting there on set.
This way, he gets to make more money. And money, Joe, I don't know if you've heard about this.
Yeah.
It's class.
It's just
I wouldn't
upsetting.
know.
I think he would enjoy doing interesting work as much as Rocky and Bullwinkle, wouldn't he?
I'll take the cash any day.
J-Lo's 50, lads. She's an inspiration. That is 50. J-Lo.
50. That is quite remarkable.
Still kicking ass.
Chris Rock was on Graham Norton the other night, and I was like...
What's he?
57 or something.
No, is he?
Absolutely mad. He looked about 30 or something.
Brad Pitt's aging incredibly well as well. He might actually be Benjamin Button. He looks phenomenal. Johnny Depp, on the other hand, less so.
Well, he don't want to talk about Johnny Depp.
He's earned it, hasn't he?
Yeah. But even Tom Cruise is starting to look old, but Brad Pitt's impenetrable. We'll have to move on.
Do we?
Unfortunately.
Damn it.
So, last story or two.
UCD goalkeeper Conor Kearns, speaking of last night, and Bohemians captain Derek Pender have both been reported for violent conduct. The pair had a coming together after Kearns celebrated UCD's 1-0 victory over Bows at Belfield last night in front of the travelling support. If found guilty of violent conduct, both players could be banned for one game. UCD's win last night means they've now gone 3 games unbeaten in the SSE or Electricity Premier Division, while Bows have gone the same span without scoring a single goal. Kieran Trippier, meanwhile, is on the verge of a £20 million move to Atletico Madrid.
20 million. I mean, here, bloody hell. Right back.
Tottenham right back has been given permission to speak with the La Liga club ahead of a medical which will take place tomorrow, seemingly. Trippier would be seen as a like-for-like replacement for Juan Fran, who was released by Atletico at the end of his contract. Danny Rose also seems set for an exit from Spurs this summer, as he won't travel with the club to Singapore tomorrow. And Celtic manager Neil Lennon says they won't be bullied into selling Kieran Tierney. Arsenal have had 2 bids for the left-back rejected, with Celtic using the £50 million paid by Manchester United to Crystal Palace for Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a benchmark. West Ham spending big as well. Their search for a striker appears at an end. They've agreed a club record fee of €50 million for Eintracht Frankfurt's Sebastian Heller. The French striker scored 33 goals in 77 Bundesliga appearances, but will complete a move to the Hammers once he completes a medical. And Ademola Lookman is leaving Everton for RB Leipzig. The clubs have agreed a €25 million fee for the 21-year-old winger. Lookman spent 6 months on loan at Leipzig in 2018. He scored 5 goals in 11 Bundesliga appearances at the time.
Richie, cheers for that. Now, if you know anyone who'd like to be a mascot for a Republic of Ireland football team, then this is a great competition. It's in association with 3. So it's all centring around Ireland's Euro qualifier with Montenegro in September. It's the opportunity to help lead out the girls in green as the official mascot and also pick up 3 tickets to the game on top of that on Tuesday. It's September 3rd, Tuesday in Tallaght Stadium. To win, tell us one of the 2 Irish players to win the Women's Premier League with Arsenal this year. Name one of the 2 who've won the Women's Premier League with Arsenal this year. 2 players part of the team will accept either as an answer. The competition is open to boys and girls between the ages of 7 and 11, and obviously you're allowed to enter on their behalf, mums and dads.
None of whom are thinking of their mortality, I would have thought.
No, I wouldn't
Don't
worry
bring
about
this
that.
down, Johnny, for God's sake.
7 to
You're
11.
Rest of the Newsround.
Tell you what though, they won't realise how quickly it'll go.
I'll tell you.
Next thing you know, you're paying a senior's fee into the Aviva.
So you can enter on their behalf, obviously, mums, dads, uncles, aunts, if you want to do that. All thanks to 3, proud sponsor of the Irish women's national football team. Text your answer to 53106. Now, next up, we're going to talk about the impact Owen Morgan has had on English cricket.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Brought to you by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard.
Get the best cashback rate in Ireland with the Avantcard Reward Plus credit card. Info correct June 2019. Source